Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope everybody is doing well. Well, today I have another EastriverG3 podcast episode for you. Today this will be probably a little bit shorter than all the other ones, probably closer in length to my Unsolved Mysteries episode, so kind of a mini-sode, if you will, although who knows. But today I'm talking about Saw, as I'm sure you can tell from the title, the 2004 film that kicked off the Saw franchise and basically the entire torture porn subgenre that spanned the early to late 2000s, spanning films like Hostel was another one that was I guess big. I don't know. That was a notable film, at least. That definitely spanned from this movie. I wanted to talk about this one because I just watched it and I kind of thought, I kind of have some stuff to say about it. I don't always do a podcast, of course, on every single movie I watch, but if I feel like I have something to say, I'm going to do it. So I'll start with saying basically that I watched the recent 4K release, the UHD release of this movie, which came out last week, I think on like Tuesday or Wednesday. So it just came out. And this is, of course, like I said, the UHD release of Saw. And I watched this, I got it, and, because I do really like this movie. I've seen it a couple times, and I always really enjoyed it. It's not an incredible film. It's not like a must-see. I feel like if you're a horror fan, you should probably see this because it is a pretty solid film. It's a pretty interesting concept. It's pretty well made, I think. In terms of general movies, is it a masterpiece? No, not even close. But in terms of horror movies, we always kind of judge those movies differently a little bit. We give a little bit of leeway. It's pretty solid. And I just had to pick it up. I'll talk about the 4K release a little bit here. First off, I thought that the cover art, like it came with a slip cover, which I kind of like. Some people don't like slip covers with Blu-rays. I kind of like them. I think it kind of protects things and they always look sharp. And it doesn't have, I guess, what you would call a lenticular cover, but it has one of those covers where it's Jigsaw's face that is done in a very cool, creepy illustration. And if you move it, you can see some writing on it. It's pretty cool. And the Steelbook from Best Buy has a different cover, and I actually think that the Steelbook's cover is not remotely as good as the regular one. But anyways, I got that. The picture quality is pretty damn good. I mean, it looks really great to watch. It definitely the 4K release definitely did it some justice. There is a lot of film grain in this movie, though. If you're one of those people where you get your 4K releases and you're like very harshly grade or judge the picture quality, there is film grain. So if that's something you're like very sensitive to, there's quite a bit when they're in the bathroom, which is where most of this movie takes place. But other scenes, not as bad. I think overall, though, for what is quite a low budget movie, I think that it's a pretty good quality picture. It's certainly good to watch. This movie has a very stylized color palette, lots of greens and like blues, so that comes across nice. I think it has Dolby Vision, though don't quote me on that. It probably does. It certainly has Dolby Atmos track, which is something that I can't personally take advantage of, but I know a lot of people like. So this does have a Dolby Atmos track, and I think from what I've heard, they did a really good job. Like you can hear water running through pipes like above your head and stuff. So if you're an audiophile and you have a really cool setup, that's something to look forward to. I think at the very least, it's very cool to see a horror movie like this get that kind of treatment. I think that's something, that I definitely support and I like to see. So yeah, that was cool and all. I'm glad I have it in my collection. I try not to be a sucker for packaging, but I'll be damned if that isn't great packaging for the movie. Anyways, though, I watched this one and, I always remember, I haven't seen it in a long time. I really haven't. I've seen all the Saw films. I think most of them are pretty bad. Like, they're okay. Like, wasn't like, they're not. Some of them are pretty terrible. Let's be honest. I know a lot of people do like the Saw films. They love torture porn and stuff. I'm not big on that. I love a little bit of plot there. We all know that a lot of the Saw films are just you're there to see people get killed in really fucked up ways. I'm not all about that totally. The first movie is definitely a lot different. You've probably heard that before. The first movie, and it really is a lot different. Having not watched it in a while, that was my recollection that it was a little less gory and a more of a psychological thriller than what the series has come to be known as. But it really is a lot different than the other films, and it's one that I would say like a lot of people are like, oh, I can't handle the gore. It's there is gore in this movie, but it is really toned down. It really does lean more towards a psychological thriller. And if I could actually go on a little bit of a tangent, just some like history, just for fun, the last time that I saw this movie, it's funny because I've seen a lot of the other Saw movies more, like Saw 2, Saw 3, which are pretty decent. They definitely get a little more crazy, a little more gory, but they're okay. Saw 2, I actually liked that movie. They're worth watching. I think a lot of the other ones in the series are like totally shit. I think Saw 6 actually randomly of all of the sequels is actually pretty decent story at least. But the last time I saw Saw, I know that's kind of funny to say, was on UMD. If anyone remembers that, kudos to you. Not UHD, UMD, Universal Media Disc, which was a proprietary format that Sony made for their PSP, which was their handheld PlayStation console that they made back in the mid 2000s, basically, and which was a great console. It had a lot of great games. It was very, very cool. It was a direct competitor to Nintendo. And I think they did a great job, and they even did a great job with their Vita, which which was their successor to that, which was a fantastic handheld console that they never supported. It's so frustrating. It was a great console, and they never supported it. But UMD was basically a really, really tiny little DVD disc that came in this weird sort of plastic enclosure, and that's what the games were on. And it was capable of full motion video, so they also put movies on it. Kind of like a little silly, like of course we have a million ways to watch things now. You can lay in bed and watch a movie on your phone. But back in the day, I was like prime time demographic for this. I think I was like a teenager. So I could go buy movies on the UMD. And in addition to playing games, I could also watch a movie, which was so cool back in the day. They only ran at 480p. And I honestly think they were downscaled to fit the screen of the PSP. So it's not like it was great picture quality, but it was just cool, whatever. It was just cool. And I distinctly remember having two movies. I had Big Daddy, which is, I think that I always kind of think that one's pretty funny. It's okay. And I had Saw. And that's what I had. I had those two movies, and I watched them all the time. So that was the last time I watched Saw, was probably in like 2005 or 6. It's been a long time. This is totally a tangent, but I thought I'd just point that out there. UMDs aren't talked about a lot. It's totally, gone with time, but this is an interesting thing nonetheless. Well, this is by James Wan, of course. James Wan, an Australian director who has gone on to make lots of popular horror movies. He's made The Conjuring and Insidious and things like that. He even directed one of the Fast and the Furious movies. I think he directed the 7th Fast and the Furious movie. I don't know. There's like 600 of them. James Wan is a very good director, I think. I don't think all of his movies are excellent, but he's definitely has a very unique style. He actually even directed a movie I really enjoy called Death Sentence, which is like an action thriller kind of movie, almost like a crime movie, not horror at all. That's a great movie, but he's like, I don't know how to describe him exactly. Like, not all of his films are excellent, but he definitely has like a very unique style and very interesting ideas. And this was a very low budget movie. Very low budget. It was shot, I believe, on a $1.2 million budget, which is pretty small. Horror movies have low budgets in general, but that's pretty small. And it was also shot on 16 millimeter film. Um, uh, and this is starring Lee Wannell. I'm sorry if I mispronounce their names, as Adam, and Carrie Elwes as Lawrence. Those are basically the two main characters. Danny Glover is also in this movie as David Tapp, the detective, and Michael Emerson plays Zepp, and of course Tobin Bell plays Jigsaw. As you know, Saw, or his name in the movie is John Kramer. You know, we all know by now. He's a great actor. Also, the score was done by Charlie Closer. I don't know him. I don't know much of his work, but he did the score. And of course, the cue called Hello Zepp is now the theme song of Saw, and everybody knows that cue. It's very popular. So yeah, this definitely reads like a low budget movie. You can see where they cut corners, but this is an interesting movie because a lot of the movie does take place in the bathroom. I mean, the main gist of this movie is that two guys basically wake up in a bathroom chained to the wall. They don't know why they're there. They basically get a tape recording from this crazy serial killer named Jigsaw, and they discover that they have to kill each other by 6 o'clock or it's game over. And you kind of learn throughout the movie what's going on. A lot of flashbacks, a lot of cuts to different time, different places in this movie, things like that. It's one of those movies where there's a lot of jumping back and forth, although like the bulk of the action takes place in this singular bathroom that they're chained in. And while this isn't exactly quite something like Buried with Ryan Reynolds or Phone Booth, I do like that style of film where a lot of the action takes place in one place. It's not always done well, and those movies I just described aren't like amazing by any means, but I kind of enjoy them. That's a style that I really like if it's done well. I think it's interesting to have something take place in one singular situation. It's something in plays that happens a lot. There's a lot of plays where it's all takes place in one situation. And it's a very interesting thing to kind of, movies kind of give a grand scope kind of thing a lot of the times. And it's interesting to have it take place in one spot and kind of single into this one sort of moment in time, which movies don't do a lot. Movies try to show you this big grand scope, like I said. So I like that aspect of it. This movie, if I could, I don't know, I don't really know what to say. I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I did want to talk about it. In terms of like low budgetness, they did some things. Most of what was shot was actually rehearsal footage because they shot it on film, like I said, 16 millimeter. So, film is expensive. So a lot of what you're seeing is rehearsal takes. And when they finished the movie, they realized they really didn't have a lot of shots to work with. So that's where Saw is known for that frenetic camera style, like the circling around the person, quick shots, like really crazy, like hyperactive, like cocaine fueled sort of editing. And that's what the series is known for. But that wasn't what James Wan's intention was. He wanted this to be a little bit more slow paced. I mean, obviously this movie takes cues from Seven, directed by David Fincher. But it was a necessity, they realized, in the editing room to have this be cut like that because they just didn't have enough takes. There's a lot of times you see photographs of crime scenes or you see security camera footage. Those were inserted afterwards because they needed to fill the runtime and work with what takes they had. So that's kind of an interesting thing. It's very interesting. I like it. I would have liked to see what James Wan's original intention was because I think that dude seriously has some talent. I would have liked to see it. Although, to be fair, like you have something like The Conjuring, which is a pretty damn good horror movie, and that's definitely probably closer to what his true style is. So there's that. And again, as I was saying very early on, it's often talked about how, Saw is a very crazy, gory torture porn series, and that is the genre that this really created, torture porn. Just you want to see people get killed in crazy, gory, violent ways. This movie doesn't really do that, and I really did forget just how lack of that there is. there's barely any traps. Saw is known for the traps. This movie barely has any. There are some, but they're not shown. They're shown as them basically explaining, oh, here's what Jigsaw did. It has that police procedural vibe to it, kind of that like mystery thriller vibe to it. You're kind of trying to figure out who the killer is. And they'll show you like, oh, this guy died in this way or this guy died in this way, and they'll do a little bit of a flashback to that person in that trap, but it's very short and it's not terribly gory. There's another trap where the police and another flashback go to Jigsaw's lair basically to try to apprehend him, and there's somebody there in a trap, but again, just very minimal. So there's almost no traps in this movie, you could say. Technically there's very few. They're not terribly gory in terms of, you know, how the genre goes. So it is actually interesting to kind of sit and watch a Saw movie where there's basically no traps in it, and it's kind of refreshing considering how absolutely fucking ridiculous the series gets. Like, people, oh my god, it just gets nuts. I know people like that, but it's very much a psychological thriller. It's very much a mystery, and again, as I said before, it really takes from Seven. Of course, this is not as good as Seven, not even close, but it is a refreshing thing to come back and watch this movie and see that. And it's a pretty good mystery, like, because, you know, the character Zepp is basically the creepy guy who is holding Dr. Lawrence Gordon's family captive, and basically if he doesn't kill Adam, he's going to kill his family. And you're just really, if you have never seen this, of course, I'm kind of spoiling stuff, but if you've never seen this, you will be like, what the fuck? I hope this is pretty intense. It does have a lot of tension in it, and it feels more, like a thriller to me than a horror movie, I would say. And again, I'm just saying, just watching this again for the first time in a long time, it feels more like a psychological thriller than a horror movie. Really, it really does. Although there are some horror elements, some really creepy moments, and I will say my favorite moment in this entire movie, which I definitely remembered, and I love it. I think it was done really well and is really creepy and a lot of fun to watch, is the moment where it's a flashback to Adam, the other guy chained up in the bathroom, kind of describing how he was captured, of course, by Jigsaw in the pig mask, the now famous pig mask. And he's basically a photographer, and he was paid by Danny Glover's character, who's the detective who basically thinks that Lawrence Gordon is the killer, so he's paid him to kind of follow him and take pictures of him. He's got the whole crazy, he's got the pictures on his wall in his apartment with the dots connecting it, that's so cliche. It's cliche, but, whatever. And he basically wakes up and his whole apartment is dark. The lights have been turned off. The power is gone. And he's using his camera as the flash to take a picture to get a quick flash to see, and the tension is incredible. You know that something's going to pop out and fucking grab him, but you don't know when. And he finally opens his closet door and snaps a picture. And that's when the pig jumps out of the closet and grabs him. That is a great scene. The tension in that is great. That's James Wan, in my opinion. That's James Wan's style. That he does tension so well. Like in The Conjuring, to go to that movie quick, not my favorite horror movie because I don't really like exorcism, ghost story kind of horror movies, but that movie has some unbelievably good tension in it. Like the scene where the two little girls are in their bedroom and the one girl's like, oh, I see someone in the corner. I see someone standing in the corner, and they're looking, and they're just not giving it to you. It's coming, but he's not giving you that release. There's nothing scary happening per se. Like, you don't see anything creepy. There's no scary disfigured person, but they're just not giving you that release. So I think James Wan is great at tension. I think that's probably his best attribute as a filmmaker, in my opinion. Another great scene is like in Conjuring. I'm talking about Conjuring today, I guess, is when the woman is like in the little going down to the basement in the crawl space of their closet, and she has the lamp, or sorry, she has like a match for light, and she's clapping. That's another scene with great tension. So this movie has that. Of course, though, it's a very different style film. It's more of like a thriller mystery sort of film. I don't have much more to say about it. I did want to talk about it. I enjoy it. It's not an incredibly well made film. It's not like an incredible piece of cinema, but it is a really solid, good thriller movie. And I think what they did on a small budget is pretty impressive. Again, like I said before, like they were using like rehearsal takes for the actual footage in the movie. And something I never knew about this movie is Lee Wannell. Again, I apologize if I mispronounce his name. Who plays Adam. I never knew he was the screenplay writer for this movie. Never knew that. So he wrote the script for this movie, and I'm sure he starred in it because budget costs, and he probably could have acted a little bit and everything. The performances are pretty okay. They're okay. It's for a low budget horror film. They're not bad. Really not bad. I was being a little critical watching this, and there's some wooden line delivery in this, but I think overall it's not terrible. One thing that's interesting, I always find is strange in movies is, Lee Wannell and Cary Elwes, they're not American, but this is supposed to take place in the United States. Lee is Australian, as is James Wan, and Cary Elwes, whose name I hope I'm not mispronouncing, is English. And Cary is not great at hiding his accent, almost to the point where I couldn't quite tell if they were trying to have him be English or not, or if he was just terrible at hiding his accent and doing a really bad American accent. That was just one thing that's interesting. I always kind of get annoyed when actors they're hiding their accents and they're terrible. I feel like if you have hired an actor and you know that they just can't hide their accent, I feel like just make them that nationality or whatever, unless it's like totally detrimental to the script. Like if Lawrence was English in this movie, it's not like it would change anything. You know what I mean? Like it's not integral to the script or anything like that. So if he was just an English doctor living in America, it's not like anyone would care. And I feel like his accent would sound a lot more, would be a lot better. I don't know. That's just a nitpick of mine, but it always annoys me. Like another one I've been watching is I've been watching Nip Tuck again recently. The Ryan Murphy show, that crazy show. But what's his name? Julian McMahon. He's Australian, and his accent he very much struggles throughout that whole show to hide his accent. It's like, just let him speak an Australian accent. Same with Julie Richardson, who's English. She cannot do an American accent at all. Let her speak in a frickin' English accent. I don't know. I'm totally going off the rails here, but this shorter episode, as I said, but I just wanted to talk about this. I really enjoyed my time watching this movie. It is so different than the other films. It really is. It really has a totally different vibe. Like I've actually, I said I haven't watched this in a long time. I watched it on UHD, but that's wrong actually. And I'm thinking about it. I watched this like 4 or 5 years ago with a couple friends who liked horror movies but have never seen this, and that was their reaction when I suggested this. Was, oh, I don't know, it might be a little too gory, too crazy. Like, like they kind of almost scoffed a little at this movie, like, that's a little too intense for me. And I was like, no, it's not like the other ones. It's not like that. And they watched it and they really enjoyed it. So it's that like lack of gore and that like more of a thriller vibe that I think this one, I think this is really like the best one in the series. And by far, I think the other ones don't even really compare that much. So, yeah, and of course, this movie has a great twist. I really do think the twist is great. I'm not going to spoil it because I'm sure most of you know it, and if you haven't seen it, you just watch it and enjoy it. It has a great twist. I think it's a legitimately good twist. Are there plot holes related to the twist? Are there some questions you could bring up? Yeah, but whatever. Suspend your disbelief a little bit. I still think it's got a damn good twist in it. The first time I watched this, I was just kind of like, oh shit, I did not see that coming. So yeah, I really like this movie. I'm glad I have it on 4K because it looks great. And it's one I'll watch every once in a while. So that's Saw. Spiral just came out starring Chris Rock, good old Chris Rock in a Saw movie, and that's getting pretty mixed reviews. I'd say leaning towards negative. It's either an excellent movie or it's terrible. That's what I'm basically seeing. It's people that are like, no, this is great. It's a lot of fun. It's a great Saw movie, or I'm seeing like this movie fucking sucks. It's not made well. It's made very cheaply. Darren Lynn Bousman made it, who did like Saw 2, 3, and 4. So at least they got a director who's done shit before in the Saw franchise. But it really seems like it's not directed or edited well. I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I'll watch it, but I'm not going to watch it for a while. I'm not going to go to the movies and see this. But I watched the opening scene that they posted on YouTube, and that looked terrible. It was edited poorly. It looked very cheap. Yeah, I don't know. That's that though. I mean, we'll see with that. Anyways, this is just a kind of a quicker one. I know it's kind of rambling, but I just wanted to talk about this one because I enjoyed watching this again. I really did. So yeah, I'll be back with another episode soon. I got a lot of horror movies to get through on my list I have. So I'll be back with something, movies from the 20s all the way till recently. So who knows what I'll review next, but I hope you're staying scared. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you've seen this movie and you like it. And as always, let me know what horror movies or movies in general you've seen recently. I always like to hear from you guys. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.